Sam Page was so nice.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It used to take.
But I mean,
Say he has to fight back.
yes, that was all right.
Yes, he does. He realizes that.
I mean,
Whatever you want, man. I'm like, okay. Good evening and welcome to the May 13th Ferguson City Council. The meeting is now called to order. Let us stand for a solemn prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll? Here. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. A quorum is present. At this time, we move to our public comments. We ask that when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address. You have 3 minutes to complete your statement. When the buzzer go off, you can finish your statement, but you cannot start a new paragraph. So at this time, City Clerk Pittman, who do we have for public comments?
Adrian Shropshire.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Good evening, citizens. I'm here this evening to address Bill 7309. And I'm in here representing the planning and zoning, which I am the chair. And we have decided for the adult daycare that we will be waiving the fee of $200, which I think is an issue with some, and that fee will be waived. We are not out to stop any businesses from coming in. We want to grow our city with good, prosperous businesses, which will bring other businesses in. I would like to get a little bit better communications with the council through P&Z, so we won't have to put these type of bills on our agenda. We're willing to work with anybody, all council, on anything that you might have to talk to us about, or just to work it out. Let's save the city time and ink. Come to us and talk to us, and we can work something out, I guarantee you. The next thing I want to discuss is the sewer lateral. When I heard 2026, I really felt that I was misled before the vote. I was told that once we vote on it, I could go ahead and have my sewer lateral done, hold up. Well, come to find out, I was wrong. And whoever told me was wrong. So I just feel that there wasn't a great deal of research done through the financial department and finding out, when do we get that tax revenue? I think the bill should have been explained just a little bit clearer to us citizens, so we wouldn't have been underneath the impression that, boy, come May, I can start the digging, get the cameras in my sewer and go. So I feel from here on out, if we have any kind of bills that do concern our properties that goes onto the ballot, please do a little bit better research. That's what I ask of the council. Do your research and be transparent with us citizens. That's the main thing, transparency. So if any of the council members would like to address this, I would appreciate it. And have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shropshire.
Bobby Stirwall.
Since Mr. Shropshire brought up the sewer lateral, I will say it took me 8 years to get mine done. Two times they couldn't get the camera out beyond the front sidewalk, so they wouldn't pass it. Then I went over the head to Mr. Krabby, who was their supervisor at the time. He authorized it. Then he had it out with our manager, who got fired, I guess, for wrecking our cars, city cars and stuff like that. So it probably does need to be addressed, but I'm downsizing. I'm 70, my wife's 71, and she's got severe arthritis and I got bulging discs. We can't move as fast. So at 8117 Dale, my wife loved the big kitchen. I let her buy it, but it's just too big for us. Got 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and so we just had to move. So we're moving stuff out, sorting stuff out, and we got to put it in front of the garage. And then we get rid of it. But we are not hiring a dumpster because we got personal stuff to sort through. Okay, so whoever get on your list about and I put new grass in, I'm in the process, got straw all over, obviously in progress, but somebody come over from the city and they move around my trash can, took some trash cans. I had, because it was raining so much, I put cardboard on the sidewalk so couldn't get track mud in the house, and they took my cardboard away. They're in charge. Okay, I'm in progress. I got a number of rental properties and I'm trying to downsize and so I can retire. Okay, so my problem is, what's the purpose of this? It seems like attack really nice properties, but I have a house over in Harrison and the grass is over a foot tall. Nobody there, hasn't been for a year and a half at least. I know it's got a foundation issue, maybe that's it. But it's a foot and a half tall, nothing there, but they pester me. Another property, also, this is with 3 blocks of the community center. My other property is 3 blocks of the community center. Nice area, pick on the nicer properties. Okay, I'm downside, cleaning that out too. Same situation, they come on, one day I show up, I'm doing the yard work, and so they stop, but then they come back. Well, I come back and I see things moved around, weed eaten. I let some tall fescue grow in part of the yard intentionally because I wanted to see if I could get those seeds to grow. Well, I wanted to talk about the community center. Can I at least find out how many kids we got there? See, Mr. Musgrave's not here.
We'll get that answer to you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Theo Berwick.
I've lost 4 sets of hearing aids doing tree work. My name is Phil Berwick, and thank the council and Madam Mayor for letting the public speak. I live on Nancy Place. I've been a resident of Ferguson for 10 years. It's high time I address something that's been on my heart for a long time. My experience in Ferguson began during where God put his finger in Ferguson, right? During the Michael Brown days. And I stood between the police and the outside ragers that came and assaulted our city night after night. I was thinking about this today. I should have been really scared. But I was with a godly man who was Michael Brown's uncle, who loved Michael Brown. And I played my guitar and he sang spiritual songs, and God stayed the hand of any more deaths, even after Pastor Ewing's Um, Niece's husband jumped on a police car and cried, let's burn this city down. I want to know why 10 years later, we're paying $450,000 a year from that consent decree. When I heard about it, I thought, why are we doing that? There's already been a serious reckoning. I mean, within days, it seemed, if not months, our precious police force had turned from white to brown, or beige to brown. We're not white and black, we're different colors of ochre. I'm an artist, but millions of dollars. And when I heard the figure, and I heard it's going to an associate or a friend, President Obama, I was like, wait, one guy, and this guy comes into our city once a year to make sure our P's and Q's are crossed. And I got to thinking today, it's almost as if it's a purposeful lagging along. I would have never thought this because I just think the best in people, but I'm wondering why it's been allowed to go on. I think there needs to be a vote. I'm calling on the council for a vote. Starting tomorrow, decide not to pay another dime. And in fact, we need some of that money back. There should have been no more than 3 years to 450,000. And you know what? The reckoning already happened. There are 150 rounds shot at our minority police, point blank. After someone else was killed by an officer in another state far away. We've changed our tune, but right now, someone is reaping what shouldn't be reaped. And whoever does not go along with ending it tomorrow, I'm questioning if they're really for the city or for someone or something else.
Thank you, sir.
Shirley Emerson.
I wish it was that easy.
Good evening, Mayor and City
Good
Council,
evening.
City Manager. I'm Shirley Emerson. I'm President of Forestwood Community Development Corporation. And I'm coming to once again let you know that we're interested in pursuing the historic designation process for Northland Hills neighborhood. And so we're requesting that for the 2025-2026 budget for the Economic Sales Tax Commission, that $50,000 be included in that budget and be designated to Forestwood CDC so that we can pursue that historic designation process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Emerson.
Yolanda Hood.
Hi, Ms. Yolanda.
Hey, how are you? Good to be here. This is my first meeting, so I'm a little embarrassed about that. How you all? I do have a question. I was just listening to the gentleman talk about this sewer lateral, which I just had done. And I pray to God it doesn't take me 8 years, because I do have a water issue and the front end and in the back of my yard. So I really hope it doesn't take me 8 years, but I did pay my 15%. And what the thing is, as I'm reading on this bid, it said it's going to remove a bush, some of the wall that I have put up, and they're not replacing anything. So is that part of the, I'm just trying to find some information about it because it's my first time ever doing this. So why they don't, who's supposed to haul this off? Me, I'm supposed to pay for this too? Because if I paid $420 for this, so I thought maybe that should come with the contract also.
We'll
Does that
get your
take-
answer.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have any paperwork, you can leave it with the city clerk.
do.
Okay, thank you.
Erica Brooks.
It's 246. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Brooks.
I tried to get online, but I wasn't able to get online. The special meeting is showing, but the regular meeting is not online. But anyway, I wanted to mention, I'm hoping that you all as city council members have gotten in contact with the school board to be able to have some things for our young people to do. I'm seeing too much violence. Too many young people having AK-47s, having just weapons, being able to hold people up. If you're looking at, I care about Ferguson or looking at VOP, STL News, real STL News, you're seeing people getting held up, and it's a whole lot of space and time in the summer. And I'm hoping y'all have some kind of partnerships to be able to allow them to have some of these jobs that I've been talking about in our community, to be able to just do something in order to appreciate their community and get paid for it, not just volunteer, because they want money just like grown people want money. And so I'm hoping that you all have extended some kind of partnership for the school board to be able to, it should be something that fall in line, not only with just the city, but also the county, to where they can have some jobs available for them and some requirements to say, hey, this is where you need to be at this summer, and not just hanging out, doing other things that's not productive. Cause I know, while I was working the other day, I was in a neighborhood and saw 3 guys looking like the ones I've been seeing online, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna be held up or not. And so I just, like I said, at that point, I'm hoping, like I said, that you all have something for them to do. That's productive and paying. And there's some other things that I want to talk about, but when it comes to our city and the structure of power that's going on right now, if you're looking at anything dealing with Washington, D.C., about the racial structure that's happening in the world, not just in America, but when it comes to access to other cultures that are here in America, having more rights than American people. I know I have mentioned that I had asked it several times, several meetings, and I particularly say it every time. Is there some kind of demographic location online? I mean, I know some people find it okay, everything's fine or whatever, but when it comes to knowing and understanding the level of crime that's going on, because people have to live and they have to exist. They have to work or either make life happen the way they're gonna make it happen. Is there some location that I can go to find out real time what's going on as far as who's here and as far as the crime level that's happening? So please, if y'all haven't started anything with young people, please allow them to have some jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
I have one person online, Henry Winniful.
Good evening.
Okay,
Good evening. Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you, Mr. Henry.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members and my fellow citizens and city employees. I want to thank the chief. I don't know if he's present for what he is continuing to move the city forward and meeting up, and everybody that's involved with meeting up the consent decree requirement. I know the gentleman earlier was wondering why we have to pay a fee. It is not something that anyone wants to take money out of their pocket, but when you agree to do something, it is important to complete it. And I'm glad that we're doing it. And hopefully, we don't need a Justice Department or any agency to come and tell us to do the right thing. So all I have to say this evening is to thank everyone that is making that possible to make it a better place for us to live. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, did you get a comment from Miss Deborah? She had wanted to speak.
No,
I think she was on the phone.
no.
Okay. If not, any other comments for tonight?
No, that's all I have now.
Okay. Public comments are now closed. We move to our manager's report. City Manager Hampton, do you have a report for tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, council, it's a pleasure being in front of everyone and everyone else tonight. I did not bring Troy Doyle, since we just had the consent decree up, town hall. He will be here next, council meeting along with another city employee to do the presentation on their department. So now that this is our first real meeting, I wanted to just have you guys break in before I start bringing city department heads here and explain what's going on in their departments.
Okay,
This year, this Saturday though is the Twilight Run, and also the 120th anniversary celebration at the fire department. And that will be before the run. The other thing is with the sewer lateral, I know there was discussion whether or not council is going to start this July 1, since it will be the fiscal year. And we'll be able to track that a little bit better with the sewer lateral. I know that was one thing that was at the last council meeting that was discussed. And that's all I have on my city manager portion from me.
okay, Councilman Kassoff, he has a question.
Yeah, just real quick about the sewer lateral, because I did want, I know I would like it to start on July 1. I've looked at the numbers and we can certainly afford it. I don't know, I haven't talked to the rest of my council members, but would that require a resolution, or is that a staff decision, or how does that work?
No, that type of fund, I think would have to come from council approval.
Would it be a resolution or a budget amendment?
I would refer to the city attorney on this one.
I'll have to look.
Okay, can you, I want to get that on the agenda for the next meeting, so we have it in place by July 1st, if my colleagues are amenable to it. So if we could get that sooner rather than later, I'd appreciate it, sir.
Absolutely.
Councilman Palmer?
I too have reviewed the numbers both prior to the passage of the legislation, but also before. Last year was the first year we actually ran a deficit, and it wasn't a large deficit, but the fund balance is over $1 million. So if we're only covering the additional 15%, we do 30 or 40 sewer laterals a year, it's an incidental amount compared to the reserves. And I understand we're not going to collect it until it's collected with real property taxes. So I understand we're not going to collect it until November, December of 2026, but I too am prepared to either sponsor or vote yes for a bill that would make this active on July 1st, paying 100% instead of 85%.
We don't want people with sewer lateral problems to put off those needed repairs on account of us delaying this. So I think we're gonna do what we can to move it forward.
But we do understand the $50 is not going to be collected on the property tax until the end of December. St. Louis County don't report out until January, mid-February on the funding. Would that be adequate money to be replaced? What I'm concerned is the monies that it's in the sewer lateral, the people voted on $28. And now we put something on the ballot to say $50. But in actuality, who knows how much of that $50 is going to be collected?
Well, I mean, it's $50 per property, Madam Mayor.
Yes, we do understand that, but do we have a number?
Well, the fund has a balance of about $1 million at this point, if I recall. And until this fiscal year, it's run a surplus every year. So we understand that we'll be running a deficit for 1 year, and we've got plenty of extra money in that fund. The $50 will put us into a substantial surplus in the short run. We made it a big enough increase that there'd be some, we didn't want to have to come back for another increase 2 years from now because we were broke. So there's some extra room in that $50, and we'll be able to, we're going to see a brief decline in the fund balance if we move this up to July. But we'll be able to replenish that with the surplus in the very short term.
The question is, I know it's collected on property tax, but do we have a number, an estimated number of the $50 that's going to be collected?
I mean, it'll slightly less than double the current revenue to the fund. It's gonna go from 28 to 50, and you know, whoever's paying 28 today is gonna pay 50 tomorrow, so the fund revenue for the next fiscal year will be slightly less than double what it is this year.
Councilman Palmer.
The cost, the expenses that we incurred on the sewer lateral, I reviewed those for the last 5 years. And the 15% portion the residents was paying vary between $50,000 per year. Assuming that we went into a deficit for 1 year based on the revenue, not we have reserves. We could fund this for 30 years with the additional, and that's assuming no additional revenue coming in, which in 26, the revenue will go from roughly $250,000 per year to about $435,000 or $450,000 per year. So we should actually be able to absorb the difference of almost 7 or 8 years in the first year we collect this. That's why it made sense to me that we have enough money in there to pay for all the sewer laterals based on the historical data, 100% for the next 5 years with no additional revenue.
Okay, sound like a budget amendment to me.
Yeah.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the most concerning for me is destruction of the streets, right? We already have some bad streets. And when that sewer lateral gets to that street, and maybe that could be part of it, you know, we just hit those first before we go to someone that just starting the sewer lateral. Maybe get our worst ones first.
Okay, no problem. Just needed to ask the questions. Thus, in the city manager's report, we have a special presentation tonight from the Economic Development Sales Tax Department. City manager.
Yes, I will this time bring Rachel St. Pierre and Prashant Peoples up to discuss the EDST board.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
And
evening.
Mayor, thank you for coming tonight. We have a collective opinion that we came up with after we had some successful meetings with the EDST Commission and had a few proposals ready to bring before you guys. So the collective decision was that we were going to present what we had. And just let you know that these programs have already been dissected by staff, city manager, the attorneys, other department heads, as well as the EDST Commission. We also want to preface this by saying that each program is already designed to have a fail-safe in place if there was an opportunity for funds to be used poorly on the recipient, then we have the ability to recover those costs. And then also that each of the redevelopment agreements may not come before city council or before EDST, but we will have an internal process that the city manager or the assistant city manager will need to sign off on before we approve the use of the funds for that applicant. We have 4 that we are going to present to you. And then at the end, we wanted to open it up for comments and input so we can bring this back to EDST and keep designing everything. You know, continue working on getting these to real life.
Councilman Palmer.
Would it be possible to open it to comment from council after each of the programs instead of waiting until the end?
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Sure. I am going to try to use this correctly. Where am I pointing?
You should be able to just up and down.
Okay. Okay, so the first program we want to talk about is the Roots to Roofs program. The Roots to Roofs program essentially has combined the adjacent side lot program and the property restoration program. And as you know, we did just purchase some post-third properties. So we have ample opportunities where these properties can go to good use and be offloaded, bringing tax revenue via property assessments, back into our funding. And also bringing the community around that derelict house, back up into standards. So the key details of the Roofs to Roofs program is that we have a lot of city-owned property that we want to get rid of. And we want to do that in the way that is beneficial for the citizens that we serve. The purpose of this program would be to rehabilitate all of the derelict homes or the vacant land that we have in our city. We will provide a clear title because if, especially it's coming from the post third, we already have a clear title, and that's usually a hurdle that new property owners or developers run into. We did also want to waive any of the construction permit fees and the inspection fees that go along with it. We do have a limitation that after receiving approval, the applicant will only have 12 months to start work. So if for some reason they don't start work in those 12 months, then it's a null and void contract. And we also have a 12-month deferral period for when they have to start making payments back to us as well. So that gives them a whole year to get what they want done on the ground and then have their sanity back after going through all the loan processes. We also have the occupancy requirement, which when we gave this to the attorneys for their review, and EDST Commission for their review. EDST Commission is interested in retaining the homeowners for longer than 5 years. So the attorney recommended that we could simply just increase that timeline. But this is very similar to the FNIP First Time Home Buyers Grant program that they run. For eligibility requirements, this would only be for individuals, nonprofits, and for-profits. So that covers everybody. And they have to demonstrate a capacity to financially be able to support this project and also have a plan for construction and have drawings, have a schedule, be able to promote their ability to work to the city. So we can make a decision on their application. And then, of course, those that have residency already in Ferguson or have ties with the community already, we would give a preference to those applicants. And then two other things I wanted to touch on with this program were if you have the draft of the programs in front of you, under program benefits, we were still trying to decide on a method of determining how much funding we would want to give to an applicant. And we only came up so far with that. We're going to take the cost of the construction and multiply that by 20% to decide what to give them right off the bat. Just because usually when you are doing a loan with a bank for new construction or remodeling, they do still require a down payment. So we want to help to make sure that they have that down payment covered. And for the timeline, the incentive bonus and the, where is it? For the incentive bonus and committing to the city's already enforced design standards, we did, and Councilman Palmer has discussed this a few times. We've discussed limiting it to certain builds to make sure that the new construction not only conforms with the zoning code, but can cater to current modern times. So we don't need any more single family, 1 bedroom, 1 bath homes. We need more 3 bedroom, 2 bath homes. And that is all I have on the first program. Does anybody have any insight?
So I have a few questions. The 5-year requirement.
Councilman Franklin, the chair has to recognize you. Okay. Councilman Franklin.
Sorry about that. I've been
That's
Uh,
okay, you learned it.
So regarding the 5-year owner occupied requirement,
Mhm.
how does that apply to developers or non-for-profits? Would they be required to live in the house as well?
They wouldn't, so the developer, one of the requirements is at the end of the project that there's occupancy for the tenant of the residence. And for developers, that would mean that we know that once that person has occupancy, they are the established resident of that house and they have purchased the home from so-and-so. There'll also be the requirement for showing us the title work and knowing that whoever is living in that home, whoever is,
So the developer or the non-for-profit has to sell the home, they can't rent it in order for it to be owner occupied. Got you.
correct.
Next question.
They could occupy it themselves if they want
Right,
to,
okay.
but yeah.
Got you. Next question, is there a limit on how many of these properties an individual or developer can apply for?
I believe so. I think we limited it to 5 properties per developer
5 per developer, 5 per individual?
per year, yeah.
Per year, okay. All right, I think that's it for me. So let me ask you one more thing. So if I buy, if you guys award me 5 of those properties and I'm a developer, I've got 18 months to rehab and sell the home.
Mhm.
If I don't sell it within that 18-month window, what happens to the property?
Then, so with the property restoration program and the adjacent side lot program, the fail-safe that we have for those two is that at the time that we turn it over to you, you also give us a deed signed back to us. So in the event that for some reason the project goes sideways, then we have the ability to record that deed and bring it back to our name, which means that the developer would then have lost out on the opportunity of this program and would have to pay back funds that they utilized.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilman Cassoff, then Councilwoman Norr. Did you have a question, Palmer?
Yes.
Okay, and then Palmer. Okay, Councilwoman Norr, you've been awfully sweet today.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. I have 4 questions. One of them, I think you.
No, it was not many. I would have cut in front of you.
It won't take long. One of them, I think that you answered, but I want for clarity. Does the Roots to Roofs replace the property restoration and adjacent side lot programs? So those are going away. The information will be taken from off of the website. Okay, good. Because people ask. So the next question is, how do you determine community ties?
I don't think we have a good definition for that yet. I think where he was coming from with that idea was that similar to how the FNIP grant caters to first responders, fire men, ambulance, and city employees. I think that was the idea that we were going towards.
Okay, the next one, you stated in the presentation, must demonstrate capital to qualify. Please elaborate, what are the capital minimum requirements?
So they would have to give us the proof of a financial capacity, loan pre-approval, proof of funds, or development financing plan, the proposed construction or rehabilitation plan, and the timeline for project completion. And then after they are awarded it, in order to close the project out, we would need to do the occupancy inspection and close that out, as well as having all of the copies of the final documents to verify what was indeed put there and make sure that nobody's trying to slide something in under the radar, and just a whole slew of checks and balances in the end to make sure everybody complies.
So will that information be posted on the website along, so that way people, when we refer them, because people are always asking about the properties,
Mhm.
Are you going to add that information in so people will understand coming into the
Yeah,
city?
so the packets that we included, even though they're the drafts, they still have a lot of information on them. The best example packet that we did was for the Revive grant. So if you look at that one, that can set your expectation to how much information is going to be given to an applicant off the bat to make sure that they are the most prepared to fill out this application, to go through the process, to tell all of their friends about it and make more people come to Ferguson.
And you said it's going to be attached to the Revive grant?
No, just that the Revive grant has like the best complete draft packet. Even though the other draft packets that we have include things like the application process and what needs to be submitted with it. But this one really sets the expectations high.
Well, and I'm just asking for clarity, Rachel, because again, people are always asking. And so that way we can show them where the information is and they don't have to call you and wait to, until you have time to clarify. So if it can all be placed, somewhere where it's accessible, as detailed as possible, that's, just for clarity. The last question is, what is an example of a property that wouldn't come to council for approval and would only require the department and city manager or assistant city manager's approval?
So with all of the programs, the EDST Commission thinks that as long as we do the general program approval, that anything underneath that will just go to the city manager and the department head. So that way, not every single applicant has to be brought before city council and go through 2 council meetings and have a delay at the start of their project, essentially.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So none of the applicants or some applicants would?
Well, the EDST Commission, like, these are just drafts, so we don't have anything set in stone yet.
Okay.
But the EDST Commission would prefer that we do them along with city council, do the formal program launch, everything is approved, ready to go. And then any applicant underneath that just goes through the
Okay,
internal application
I just want to make sure.
process. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Kassoff.
First of all, we had voted as a council to give some properties to Habitat for Humanity. And they pulled out because they concluded that getting good title on a post-third property wasn't going to be possible for them. You say here that we are going to provide them with clear title. How do you propose to do that?
So when we purchase the property off of the post-third list, the title becomes cleared before they transfer it to us. And then we therefore have a clean title to start off with.
That's not correct. No. When we take property off of post-third, it doesn't clear anything. And generally what people have to do is they have to do a,
Title search.
no, what do you call that lawsuit?
Quiet title motion.
A quiet title suit. However, Habitat for Humanity apparently determined that a quiet title suit wasn't going to give them sufficient relief, and Councilor Palmer may have more details because he's had a number of post-third properties, but it definitely doesn't magically happen because it passes through the city's ownership. So that's, we are at a minimum going to incur some substantial legal fees if we choose to pursue quiet title. And I don't know, Councilor Palmer, does quiet title get you to a warranty deed or no?
The judicial, if the judge signs off on the title waiving all previous owners' rights that don't show up in court on the day of the hearing.
That gets you to a
It
warranty
allows,
deed.
it allows you to encumber the property. Like so you can go get a mortgage. It allows you to do things to the property.
Does it get you to a warranty deed from a title company?
If you sell it, yes.
Okay. So that would be sufficient, but it's not gonna be simply a matter of us taking it from the post-third and turning it over to somebody with a quick claim.
That's not.
So that's question number 1. Question number 2, we have an owner occupancy requirement of 5 years, but we are offering it to developers. We're stipulating that the developer must sell, not rent. But supposing a developer sells me one of these houses and 6 months later, I turn around and rent it out. What recourse does the city have when I have no contract? You know, the person who bought the house from the developer has no contractual obligation to the city. Are you gonna go back after a developer, or are we just gonna say, well, if it went through a developer, we're gonna write that off?
Yeah, so I think the idea is that if the developer sells it at the end of their construction, and then that person, like you said, keeps it for 6 months or so on. Whatever happens there, that's now like twice removed from the city's business.
Unless you require that the purchaser enter into some sort of agreement with the city, and I don't know if you can legally do that or not, but if not, that's a gaping hole in this program where a developer who wants to get, and I'm not clear, you're giving them a free lot, are you giving them money as well, or?
I'm sorry, a free what?
They're getting the lot for free. Are they also getting money, or is it just a free lot and that's it?
No, they get money as well.
They get money as well.
Mhm.
So if a developer wants to be slick, they get 5 houses. They build them, they take your lots and your money. They quote unquote sell them to somebody and then turn it into a rental, and poof, they just took your money. It feels like if there's a legal way to to safeguard that somehow, if the goal here isn't to subsidize new construction rental property in Ferguson, that needs to be looked at more closely.
Okay, I'll go back to you tomorrow.
Okay, Councilman Palmer.
Forgive me for being long here. I got quite a few comments, maybe suggestions, but also questions. First one is, how much funds are earmarked for this specific program for the fiscal year?
Let me look. Cause I don't think I brought my budget with me. Do you want to ask your next question while I look?
The next suggestion would be, the discussion Councilor Kassoff had regarding Habitat for Humanity. The issue became the city was prepared to give them a collector's deed, which is essentially valueless, especially when you go to improve the property.
Mhm.
So the concern was that their grant funding would have expired prior to a quiet title suit, which can take quite a lot of time.
Mhm.
Also, quiet title isn't guaranteed. There's specific liens that sometimes are very hard to extinguish, especially federal tax liens. So my suggestion, which would save money, but also prepare the city to be more of a good steward for this program, would be to determine all of our post-third properties that have clouded title, and then go to a bulk filer attorney or a staff attorney, because this is pretty easy work, and then have all of them quieted at one time. That way we can provide marketable title. I would hate to see us, advertise a property that has an unextinguishable lien, only to have somebody be disappointed that we can't provide them clear title, but also they could essentially hit the ground running if we're quieting title and it's already done, not done like a la carte. If you just call an attorney and say, quiet one title for me,
Gotcha,
they're gonna
yeah.
charge you $5,000. If you call one of the 5 or 6 bulk filers in Missouri, they have dockets with the same judge. They do 50 of them a day or 100 of them a day. They could knock these things out for, $800 to $1,500. It would put the city in a much better position to move faster. That's just a suggestion. How many properties currently does the city have themselves or post third that have structures on them that are not slated for demolition?
I don't have that information with me, but I do have it and I can send that to city manager tomorrow.
Okay. And then what's your 5-year mechanism to hold the owner accountable? I know you said that there's going to be a 5-year owner occupant requirement, but what legal mechanism are you going to try to do to, once you sell the property or once it's titled in their name, it's going to be challenging. Are you going to do some sort of a deed restriction, or how would you do that? Because FNIP currently does not record it with the size of their loans, their grants. It's not cost effective to record a deed restriction on the property. So they kind of just hold it in house.
Mhm.
It's a little bit more cumbersome to manage, but I think you could do a deed restriction. It's just that way, if they go to refinance or encumber the property, that would trigger the city as in a title report as a owner, or they have a lien on the property essentially.
Mhm.
So then once 5 years hits, if they go to sell, the city needs to be prepared to release that lien timely, because you don't want to hold up real estate deals.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a number 20%. Is that 20% of construction cost? Is there a cap on that?
Yeah, so we have that, each individual property can receive up to $15,000 to assist with the construction and rehabilitation. And that if we put the cap of the 15,000, and the way that we think we are going to determine how much to award an applicant is going to be by taking their cost of construction, and taking 20% of that to give back to them.
From my experience, most of the properties that are left are generally not repairable. I'll let somebody else decide that, but the 15 cap will basically be maxed out on anybody who builds a home. I mean, it's a new home's gonna cost well over $150,000. So 20% of that alone is 30,000. My next question is, if somebody were to take one of these projects on, build a home, what happens if they can't get traditional financing to refinance that when they're done? You know, what happens when they've done the work, they've built the home, what if they can't actually refinance the property, or they can't, due to, credit score issues or market conditions, or is there like an
This
idea for
isn't the
that?
program for them.
What's that?
This isn't the program for them.
Okay,
So if they can't demonstrate financial capability from the get-go, then we won't approve it.
okay. And then my other suggestion would be, once you enter into a program, I would encourage you to do a agreement with somebody. I would encourage you to do like similar to a 203B loan.
Okay.
It was a federal government program they used like in the real estate crisis to help people get homes that needed some work. So they would like finance your construction costs into the project. And there was but they would issue progress payments as things were done. That way you don't dish out 15 grand to somebody and they never put a shovel in the ground. Maybe say, hey, we'll give you 3 grand once the foundation's complete. We give you, that way the city is at least covered in the investment into the property. Instead of just dishing out 15 grand to 5 properties, $75,000, and then you can't find the person.
Okay. Is it okay if I send the spending plan to him as well, and
Sure.
he'll send that to you? Okay.
I think that's it.
Well, my question becomes, last year we was fighting with Paige about the post-third properties. So how many post-third properties do we have on hand? How many we planning on asking for? Because now St. Louis County has bill number 5, what?
Land bank.
Yeah, the land bank was bill number 57, which is going to cut out the post-third properties. So how many do we have on hand? How many we planning on getting?
I can give you that information and the same information that I'm gonna get for Michael.
Yeah,
Mayor Jones, I believe last year we actually took everything that was on post third. There's not any
I know
left.
it was 128, but
There's not a single post third property residential that I know of. The list is not up to date, and when they updated it in November, they did not update it. So it still lists Ferguson property. But when you actually look those properties up, they are listed as City of Ferguson, not the previous owner of record. I'm pretty sure last year we did a resolution authorizing the city manager to take every single post third property shortly after your meeting with Paige, and they redid the program. So currently there's not any, I don't think, on the list that are residential properties.
I'm not sure.
November. I don't think there's a single one left, so.
I hope not, simply because the mayors have a meeting coming up with him, and he's cherry picking post-third properties, putting them in the land bank. And if you have a lien on it, if they sell it, you may get your money and you may not get your money back. So that's where we are. That's why I needed exact number. So when we meet with him, I need to know
If it's
exactly
99
what
or
he's
100,
planning on
yeah.
doing. Because any lien property, according to chapter 140, we should get our money back. But once it go in that land bank, we're not gonna get nothing.
Yeah, and one thing about the new bill, which allows the county to establish a land bank, if done properly, it can be a good tool, because what it actually hopes to do is it allows the city of Ferguson to solicit the county to, instead of just granting a collector's deed on a post third sale property, it actually creates a judicial foreclosure process. So let's say that we had 10 properties that were that were tax delinquent that no one bid on. we could go to Paige's office and say, Cecilia Ferguson would like you to use the new state law to get these properties for us for beautification or for whatever we're gonna do. And they actually hold a judicial foreclosure proceeding where when they give title to Ferguson, it is marketable. It bypasses a quiet title motion. That's assuming that they don't cherry pick properties and give them to groups and their friends.
That's what they're gonna do.
So that's the
And
one
that's why
concern
we
about the
meeting with
bill.
them.
So, but if it's handled properly, it could be a good tool for the city of Ferguson. It's just making sure we hold those folks accountable who made big promises when they got that pushed through. Thanks.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you know how I asked earlier about the community ties? Would we be able to promote first-time homeowners?
Yes, definitely.
Definitely with that, okay.
So this is one pixel in a huge picture, right? We have several banks in the area that do very, very fruitful first-time home buyer loans.
Okay.
Then you also have the FNIP program. There's also a couple other companies in the area that offer incentives and help. So along with this program, one of the first documents that they're gonna get, in this giant packet is gonna be, check out these people because there is additional funding that you should be utilizing that can help you along your path.
Okay. One more, I know I said one, but this is the last one. And as far as the plans, when they are approved, they meaning the applicants, will any of the plans have to go through planning and zoning, or how will that work?
For residential construction, not usually, it wouldn't usually go through planning and zoning.
Okay.
If there was a hardship and they were trying to go for a variance on, how close to the road they can build, that might be something that goes through Board of Adjustment. Or if for some reason, maybe they want to change the zoning where that new house resides, then that could go through planning and zoning, but generally it would not.
Councilman Franklin.
Will there be a vetting process for potential developers that are out of state?
Yes.
And so, like you already have that in place, or, cause I'm just kind of concerned, cause a lot of times we get LLCs that are in Alaska or, Vermont, and they buy up property here and they're absentee landlords after a while. And when there are violations, it's hard for us to track down or get any kind of, legal action against those LLCs. So
Yeah.
definitely would like to see some type of vetting process for potential out-of-state developers.
We have some things, but I'm definitely open to knowing more questions that we should ask. So if you think of anything, just let me know.
Well, I would just, my recommendation is to just keep it local. Just cut out those out-of-state and make a program for, the St. Louis region as opposed to any and everybody that may be a potential developer. Now, if somebody wants to move in one of these properties from out of state and live in it, great. But the out-of-town investment companies, I would kind of just exclude them from the program altogether.
Okay. Mayor, I'm sorry, I have one more, and I promise this is it. Can a developer, you said 5 properties a year, so that's a developer. Can that developer also apply as an individual in a nonprofit, or it's just that one? Okay,
Yeah, if we
Okay.
see things like that happening, we'll deny applications with the reason of that, yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, but Councilman Palmer brought up a good question. If we going to give them $15,000 piecemeal it, don't give it to them all at one time.
Mhm.
Okay. I know you have 3 other programs,
Yes.
so you brought up the one that hit home the most, okay? So, okay.
Okay, so the next project that we have is actually being spearheaded by Prashan, who is a community development coordinator. So she is going to be walking you guys through this one.
So the Ferguson Leadership Scholarship Program will be aimed at Ferguson residents who attend UMSL and St. Louis Community College, providing up to $5,000 in financial assistance to any individual that is pursuing education in business, leadership, accounting, and public administration. The hope with this program, of course, is to develop, of course, future leaders, but also support some career paths that we hope would strengthen the Ferguson community, potentially bringing back some jobs as well as hoping that they work in Ferguson after receiving the funds. We hope to partner with UMSL, potentially WashU, as well as St. Louis Community College, to encourage students to not only attend the college, but as well as figuring out ways for them to be able to give back to Ferguson after receiving the scholarship. Again, some of the requirements is that they must be enrolled in pre-approved courses. We have a course list that we have. They will have to provide us with an acceptance letter, tuition and fees letter, as well as the course that they will be taking for the semester. We also require that they receive a passing grade in the class as well in order to be able to receive funds. They will receive the funds upfront, but will be required if they do not receive a passing grade by the end of the semester to pay us back those funds. This program is actually pretty straightforward. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Councilman Casal.
I'm just wondering what the rationale is here that a student in Berkeley who wants to study accounting and go work at Price Waterhouse is going to be eligible for this, but a Ferguson resident who wants to study psychology and open a practice in Ferguson wouldn't be eligible. It just seems weird criteria where it's people that aren't even part of Ferguson would be eligible. I don't get that.
So the criteria has changed as we've been speaking to the EDST Commission. The scholarship is actually only available to Ferguson residents. It is not available. It is only available to Ferguson residents. It is not available. Yes, this does say.
It says non-residents, right at the first line up there says open to residents, non-residents, and students attending schools in the district.
So again, after speaking with the EDST Commission and having several meetings with them, we are revising the program currently. It will only be offered to Ferguson residents.
Okay, and then second half of the question is, why are we gonna give a grant to somebody that wants to study accounting and go work at Price Waterhouse, but not somebody who wants to study psychology and open a counseling office on Florissant Road? That doesn't really make sense to me either.
So the reason that we are.
That identifies what you can use EDST funding for, actually identifies these the umbrella type programs that we have outlined here. So we're coming from a state statute that the municipality has adopted and trying to keep within the boundaries.
My question becomes, we educate this person, but what are they gonna give back?
So we also, again, after speaking with the EDST Commission, decided that anyone who does receive funds would be required to serve on a board or commission, and they will have to serve the entire.
Where were you when I was paying tuition for my kids? I mean, we're gonna have children, I'm being very honest. They will take this program, they will use the funding, and they won't come back.
So
We have majority of our college students right now, people who live here, their kids going off to college, they're not coming back. We want them to come back. But what incentive is it that we're gonna give you this money to go to college, but you're gonna come back and serve on a board and a commission?
right now, that's really the only thing that we can essentially, in terms of like something that is concrete. That's the only thing that we can offer in terms of forcing them to, or encouraging them to stay within and giving back to the city. We offer this scholarship with the intentions and hope that, again, like I said, working with WashU, as well as St. Louis Community College, and providing opportunities for them to come back, start business, like just start businesses.
Why not offer them a job? We educate them. Why they can't come back and work for the city?
If we have positions available, they will be able to do so. However, that will be determined at the time. We can't guarantee that there will be open positions at the time.
And big picture speaking, it's good to think about the lack of educated population that we have here and how poor our community is. It doesn't matter if we're sending people from Berkeley to college, they're close enough to our municipality. They're in the same county that we are all trying to improve.
Yes.
North County is poor.
No, North County is not poor. Don't say that, please. We are not poor. North County is not poor. We have some impoverished areas, but North County is not poor. And if you look at the 2020 census, we had more kids going to college now than we had before. So North County is not poor.
And we want that to continue.
That's an insult. It is, it really is.
I believe that what Rachel was
Okay.
trying to say, what?
So I got a couple of questions. Do they have to be full-time enrolled students, or is it part?
No,
taking a-
so they don't have to be full-time. This supports not only like, it doesn't support just degrees. If someone wants to go and get a certificate, it also supports that as well.
Okay, and-
If you have to go part-time because you have to work
Cool.
full-time, you're still
Gotcha.
eligible.
And I just would like to add that, I actually like the program. I like the idea of, supporting our youth. You know, we can't guarantee that they'll go to college, get a degree, and decide to stay in Ferguson or North County. But again, the more we put on the right path, the fewer people we got out here committing crimes and getting into issues. And some of our young folks, they need as many resources as possible to go to college, you know, so I'm willing to gamble on, I went to Alabama and went to school, and I'm back here in St. Louis. I'm in Ferguson, and I'm serving the community that raised me. So I'm all for the program. I think it's a good idea, and I'll pass. David, you have something?
Councilman Williams and Councilman Palmer.
I do think it's an excellent program. And I think the boards and commissions is fair. The real purpose of this is to educate the young people.
Yes.
The only issue I have, what if I wanted to do computer science or artificial intelligence? I know you guys are grouping it from the state. Can we expand some of the majors or the discipline these children can study? Because these are just broad, you know, what if I wanted to be a doctor? That's
So-
not on there.
So the approved course list actually, I believe it includes, if you look through it, a list. I believe that I think I might have included some of the IT because for some of the programs, some of the programs that are offered either through WashU, or St. Louis Community College, IT management. Because again, leadership falls under that as well. So if you decide that you maybe want to major in IT, but you want to be some type of manager in IT, that fall under leadership as well. Like you said, it is broad, and it is broad for a reason so that we can try and encapsulate a lot of other majors as well.
Yeah, and even if they don't come back to St. Louis, it's an educated segment of the population. And so they're putting in a tax base somewhere instead of being on assistance. So I think it's a win-win. And usually when you get a degree, you do not want to work for the city or municipality or state because they pay a lot less than the private sector. So I think being on the boards and commissions is fair because they'll be a part of the community. They can see what's going on and they're like, hey, I think I want to live in Ferguson, but I've been saying this a long time. We have to build it and they will come. So when these kids do have their degrees, why would they want to come back here? You know, we don't have any bars or entertainment spaces. And I'm looking at what Chesterfield is doing. They tore down that mall and they're doing a mixed community where it has residential and commercial. We need to start thinking that mindset, or look at Clayton. We have more land than Clayton. So we can build all kinds of skyscrapers. But the limit here is 3 stories. But I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I think this is a great program to get kids interested in some type of higher education.
Councilman Palmer.
Should a program like this become approved or some version of it, what's the anticipated expenditure per year for this program citywide?
I believe that it was 30,000 of EDST funds per year. So we can provide up to six applicants approximately.
Now, what happens if you have more than 6 applicants?
Then they would just have to wait until the next year, because unfortunately, that's all the funds that have been allocated for the program.
If there is a successful recipient of the grant that does well, are they eligible for the multiple years as college is more than 1 year generally?
They can be. We're not keeping them from not applying, because again, the intention of the program is to have educated individuals.
Then you said that it's not reimbursement, it's paid up front.
Yes, it is paid up front.
So what happens if they're like me and they get into the, the 8th week of financial accounting when I'm 18 and I drop the class, so it doesn't affect my GPA?
So
It's a serious question.
we are requiring that they do pay the funds back because of that. Legally, we would have to get with our attorney, see if they got a way, because again, they will have to sign a contract. And so that would be legally binding.
There's a
So
lot
if
of
they
people
don't,
that owe people money. Collection.
that is true. That is absolutely true. We will have to work that out.
So I was curious, like, I was once a early recipient of the Missouri A+ program.
Mhm.
I was one of the early classes that got that. And it's a great program. I think it still exists.
Mhm.
It was not very hard to qualify. You had to get like a C average, have good attendance, and not get in trouble. And they paid for community college for me for 2 years. It was an excellent program. I'm not saying you got to get straight A's to qualify, but I would hate to think we're giving $5,000 to an F student or a D student that can't read at a 5th grade level. Like we want to help people get an education. We also want to make sure that they're, we want to help people that are more likely to succeed, not just.
So they are required to have a passing grade,
Okay.
or else will have to pay us back the funds.
Right. And then furthermore, when I was in that program, they would audit your records every semester. And if I didn't perform at a certain, wasn't like straight A's, it was C's or something, I could lose my A+ scholarship for the following year or semester. So just maybe some checks and balances would be good. Then need-based, what metric are you using to determine if somebody is need-based?
It isn't really need-based. It is for anyone who wants to apply.
Selections, merit, and need-based.
It is, but merit and need-based. It is for anyone who wants to apply, albeit that, again, the target audience is those who are need-based.
Yeah, I think helping Ferguson residents that, are good, good citizens or come from decent homes is a good opportunity. I received a $2,000 scholarship from the Kiwanis group when I was in, and it helped, it helps, pay for your education. So thank you.
Does this take into account apprenticeship programs?
Yes, as long as they fall under the scope that we provided. You are not required to get a degree. Certifications.
Okay. Okay, Councilwoman, Covington. I can't see you, darling. Okay, Councilwoman Covington.
Quick question, one question, because Mike took like 3 of mine. I have 2 kids in college. Is this $5,000 for fall and spring, or is it just $5,000 out of the total freshman year?
More than likely, we'd be looking at $5,000 out of the freshman year, because it's based on really the fiscal year.
That tuition for that year.
Yes, because it is to assist. The program is more so trying to assist rather than actually being able to fund an entire program, because we only can provide.
So they got.
So fall, spring.
Yeah, it's fall, yeah.
Yes.
You just trying to double dip. Come on now.
Hey, look, I got 2 kids in college.
You better work that overtime.
Okay, Councilwoman Noor.
The last question, okay, so if the students that they're approved, they participate, they graduate, and they come back to Ferguson, serve on a board or a commission.
Mhm.
And this is a serious question. What if they owe taxes? Or we want to waive that and let them serve? No, I'm serious, because that is a requirement of our boards and commissions.
It's a laugh, but it is the truth.
We gonna kick
I mean, or we are going to allow them, that won't be a requirement for the students or the graduates.
We would actually have to discuss that.
Just something
but-
to think about,
It is.
just to make sure we're thorough with the program, okay? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Palmer.
I missed my note about one basic suggestion, which is kind of helps with assuming this program comes to some sort of reality. You would hope that it would go on for quite some time and gain popularity, but I would think it would be important in the application process to have the applicant sign something saying that they grant their permission to use them for marketing for the program in the future. That way you can maybe have some success stories. FNIP uses that for their programming so that they can kind of say, hey, look, this person had their tree cut down, this person built a deck. It'd be good to have this person was from Ferguson and got this grant, they did this many grades and they received a degree and so on and so forth. Just some success stories help real life situations make it easier to market a program going forward.
Councilman Cassoff.
Yeah, I want to get back to the approved fields of study, because you said that it was dictated by state law. Since you made that statement, I've read 67.1305 twice, and I don't see it in there. In fact, the only thing that they say in there is that it can be used for training programs to prepare workers for advanced technologies and high-skilled jobs. It doesn't mention business and accounting or anything like that. It also says basically that once you've spent the 20% on the required amounts, you can spend the 80% on just about anything. So it's certainly within your discretion to include other things, but it again strikes me as strange that we have this specific little list. And not only does it exclude some very good careers that people might want to go to college for, but it actually specifically excludes the one career path that the EDST state law specifically says you can cover.
So I want to highlight that we did bring it before council to get your opinion on these programs. So if you do believe that we should expand the program, then we'll take that under consideration and present it to the E EDST.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3.
The third program that we have is the Revive Grant. This grant is very similar to one that the city ran when there was a downtown TIF district to help with some of the businesses getting new awnings, putting in, planters, a new sign. And we have taken that and brought it up to the current year that we are in, and have found a new way to fund a program like this. So ideally, the applications would come in, they would get 50% upfront and 50% after they approved that all of the work has been completed per the plan that they submitted. We will give 5,000 per storefront or per business. So if they have 2 storefronts, and it's one business, they would not be eligible to use the funding on both of their storefronts, especially if one is in Florissant. And then we have 50,000 total for this fund. And we are hoping that the first year that we can do at least 10 businesses. And then the upcoming year, we're going to bring everything back to EDST, of course, to discuss our budget for the next year. For the qualifications, we have that it must be a Ferguson business. It should be a business that stands alone with a brick and mortar storefront, as opposed to somebody who might just run their towing company office out of their home. And applicants will need to submit similar information for plans and improvements and quotes, so we can validate that when they submit their substantial completion certificate that they have indeed done everything they promised to us. And this is the application packet that is the most complete and has the highest standard. So this one is a really good, almost final product for people to look at as an example and understand where we're coming at with why, you know, we have this stipulation, that stipulation, and so on. And that one is really short and sweet, so.
Councilwoman Orr, you have a question? Okay, Councilman Williams.
So if you work for the city of Ferguson or you're on council, are you eligible for this, or do you exclude people that work for city government or on council?
I don't think that we're excluding it from people. I've worked for a municipality in the past that had a council person utilize funding like this, and they just dismissed themselves from the voting, and we're not part of that.
Okay,
I have two questions. So this program will have to come to council for approval, but the roofs, what is it? The roots to roofs won't. And I just, for clarity, why not?
So this one is also one that's up for discussion where maybe they don't want every program or every redevelopment agreement to have to come before city council. This is the way that we originally structured it. Also keep in mind that since we have to have things so far in advance for you guys, there may be meetings in between where information is changing constantly. So with this one in particular though, with it being a business, and us focusing on our commercial districts, I would encourage city council approval to enter into these redevelopment agreements. That's my personal opinion. And if we decide to go another way, then so be it. That will be the way that we go.
Okay, the next question is, okay, you just stated in the, so this is not just for FFBD district, West Florissant can apply as well?
Oh, correct. Yes.
Okay, and 10 a year. Okay, so if there are like 4 different businesses in one building, each business can apply for the, okay, and so, but the business may not own the building, they're just renting the space.
Correct. Yep. So they would have to give us some proof of owner authorization. That says, you know, I, as the property owner, am giving so-and-so permission to make these improvements, et cetera.
Okay, so with that said, if it's the same owner, but it's a different business, that would count as 1, and then that's 2, that's 3, but it's the same owner, but all different businesses.
So this is more business based. So if you have a office suite and you have 12 suites in there, the applicant is going to be the business owner, not necessarily the suite owner.
Right.
And that's what we're pushing for. That doesn't exclude the property owner from being able to apply to this because he might want to make improvements to the entire business suite, like give them upgraded HVAC or, you know,
Right.
window tint or something like that. So that would affect everybody, but each business of that building can apply.
And since, okay, we can only fund supports up to 10 businesses, so can it be fair to say that there can only be 5 from South Florissant and 5 on West Florissant? Does that make sense? That way,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
makes
it's
sense.
kind of fair. And how are you going to determine, is it on a first come, first served basis?
Mm-hmm. Yep, all of the grant programs are going to be a first come, first serve. And that just seems to be the best way to do it right now. And that gives us the opportunity to do a study at the end of the fiscal year, bring that information back to EDST and say, this popular program did really well. We want to increase how much money we can fund it over the next year. This program did really poorly. We should think about taking it out.
One last question.
Mhm.
So if the business was approved, if the program works out and EDST commission says, yes, let's do it again, let's take it back to council for approval. Can a business, I mean, the answer probably is no, but can a business, apply again the next year? Or it's like, no, you just receive funding?
Um, I, I don't think that we touch on that at all.
Okay, just asking. I mean, you said this is our opportunity to ask, so
Yep.
just for clarity. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you,
no, that's
Rachel.
exactly why we're here.
Councilman Palmer.
Is there a minimum investment that has to be spent to achieve the $5,000 grant? Or is this just a $5,000 grant, no matter how much, like,
This one is a $5,000 flat rate.
so if a person comes due with a $5,000 project, they don't have to spend a dime of their own money? They get 2,500 up front, they get 2,500 at the end?
They could, yes.
We are awfully generous. Any other questions? Okay, next one.
All right. The next grant that we have is the disaster recovery grant. This one came around because of the fire at Drake's. This one has been the most fun to do actually because it was a germ size of an idea that we all worked on, and then like every single member of the board did something, every single member of the staff did something. So this was a really fun one to put together. Anyways, I digress. So the disaster recovery grant, we would like to offer financial assistance to those businesses that have been affected by flood, fire, natural disaster, also arson, if that is one, as long as the property owner is not the arsonist. And it does provide them a payback period, so that way they can get funding up front. They can start making all of the repairs and they don't have to repay us until later. Now, one of the options that the EDST Commission did discuss though was taking away the need for repayment. So doing this more as a gift as opposed to a forgivable loan. A loan as opposed to just a grant. They haven't made up their mind either way. And then we were also talking about how to calculate what amount we want to approve for each application. So there's the cap of the 30,000, but then we want to come up with an educated way to decide how much money should be provided to each applicant, depending on what disaster they had, what their insurance claim amount was, how much construction is going to cost, etc. And this one also, all of these programs also involve multiple departments. So you're gonna see a lot of details and information coming from other departments as well throughout these programs. Even that's from conception of bringing it to council for approval to a final presentation at some point. Does anybody have any questions on that program?
Councilman Castle.
Yeah, two quick questions. First of all, specific to this program, one of the qualifications is insurance coverage prior to the event. So my understanding that the problem at Drake's is there wasn't insurance coverage, or at least it was inadequate. Otherwise, they wouldn't need the money, right? So you're saying this program was brought to mind because of the situation at Drake's, but it sounds like they wouldn't even be eligible.
So I don't think I knew the details about their insurance capabilities, but I know that commissioners were talking about how if there was an event where somebody did not have adequate coverage or any coverage, that as long as they obtained coverage throughout this process and then still had that coverage with the increased coverage amount that they actually need, then they would be amenable to that. But if they come back and it turns out like this is a huge case of fraud, or if in the 12 months they still don't have insurance and we keep pestering them to get insurance, they don't do it, well then it's too bad, it's so sad, you're gonna have to pay
Okay, so where it says up there, insurance coverage prior to the event, we're striking that from the requirements.
It's not, so it's not a requirement, correct? But
Okay.
we're not striking it entirely.
Okay, and the other question I have, and this doesn't just pertain to this program, it really pertains to all of them. There are situations whereby a participant in one of these programs receives funds and they default. They drop out of school, they turn the house into a rental instead of living there, or they don't get insurance coverage or whatever. And presumably they would owe the city money. Do we have a process and an intention of actually collecting that money? Because a lot of times people owe the city money and it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
I would love to tell you that 17 years from now, when this program is still running and none of us are here anymore, that it'll be perfectly as smooth as we execute it the day that we do it. I know that there isn't always a long-term fail-safe like that, but I think that's something that we can all like continue thinking about with these programs, is how to make that better for the future
Well,
employees
I'm
of
not
Ferguson that
asking-
have to administer this.
Excuse me, I'm not asking that it be perfectly executed. What I asked was, do we have a specific plan for recouping money from those who default on the program? You hand $15,000 to a developer, he puts up a house and rents it. He owes you $15,000. Presumably, we're gonna have to sue the guy or send him a bill. Somebody drops out of college and they got $5,000 from the college program, or maybe they take the $5,000 and don't even go. We have the city already has a lot of things that they do where people might ought to be giving us, money. We go cut somebody's grass, we put a lien on the house. 30 years later, maybe we get that $40 back, right? I don't think we want to hand somebody $30,000 because their business caught fire. And then they say, oh, well, thanks for the $30,000, and they shut the business down and move over to Jennings, because, that could happen. We had a business here in Ferguson that raised a whole bunch of money on GoFundMe because Ferguson and, her business got smashed up. She took that money and moved to Jennings. Well, that was private money, so that was her business. But if we're going to give her a business $30,000 of city money, I darn sure don't want them to spend that on a moving van and build out for their new business in Jennings. And we have to have some mechanism in place to recoup those funds if people don't do it. And that's why I asked you about it. Not that we have to be a perfect program 17 years down the road, but we need safeguards.
I understood your question and I apologize for taking the long route to get to it. I tend to extrapolate a little more than I need to in the beginning. But yes, each of these programs does have a fail-safe design that is structured for that program individually. And then each program also has monitoring and reporting requirements that we have to pay attention to. And as long as the SOP stays in place, it shouldn't become an issue. And it just takes each of the department heads, everybody that has a hand in this, to do their full extent to each part, and we can recover costs if we need to. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we just can grant money and improve Ferguson.
Councilman Franklin, then Councilman Williams, and Palmer, then the mayor.
One question, at the end of 5 years in the deferment process, is interest tacked on to the loan if it's not paid in full? Or will it be compound interest going all the way back to the origin of the origination of the loan?
If they default?
Yeah, if they just don't pay it off in time, you say you give them 5 years.
Yeah.
To pay it off, and
That's a question I can ask Nodrick. I know that we said that there wasn't going to be an interest rate, but
I mean, that's
I'll bet
generally
he
what
has
happens
some,
with those zero interest loans. If you don't pay it off within that window, then they
right,
tack all the interest back on and then it's a high rate. So
yeah,
that's the concern I have if we're gonna, put businesses out there and then everybody's financial standing are different in the community. So I wouldn't want to put them in that situation where now they got to pay 5 years worth of interest. Plus they still got that outstanding balance. So
mm-hmm.
that's all I got.
Palmer?
I just wanted to ask, when it comes to all these programs, obviously you try to craft programs to make the community better. Sometimes some do well and some don't. Is there a plan that, let's say for instance, we don't have any fires or vandalism or anybody in need of this program, would those funds just be, put into a pot for the following year? Or would you reallocate them if you had, more than 6 applicants for the college scholarship? Or what's kind of the plan for an unutilized fund?
So yearly, we will be getting together to do a study of everything and the budget, and of course, bring budget to EDST and then to city council. If a program is doing so poorly right off the bat, I could see us going to EDST commission and saying, hey, we need to nix this program. Can we add this funding to what have you?
Or why are there not any applicants?
Yeah.
Like from a business perspective, I can see the first program having issues because it's gonna be mostly a program geared towards new construction.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of people that are gonna move to town and build their own home. It's just not practical. I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, but it's very unlikely. But, if a developer comes in and builds 5 houses, that's fantastic. It's great for our tax base. It's gonna be much more valuable than probably anything around it. But the concern is, if we're telling them you have to sell it, they might say, well, I'm not even gonna build anything to begin with, they're coming into a risky market to begin with. The 20% subsidy does help, capped at 15 grand. But I can see an issue where it might be too risk averse for their lender. Nobody's gonna come into town and, drop $800,000 or $1 million on 5 houses in cash. They're gonna have a lender, and the lender's gonna say, what's your exit strategy? Should this fall apart, It's just things to consider. If there's not any interest, how do you, like you said, nix the program or make changes to be more conducive to get those types of investments you're looking for?
And I agree. I think the only way that we're gonna do that is, of course, to do an annual review on everything all the time. Just to, even your dentist, you go to the dentist every year, they give you a grade on your teeth. If your gums are bleeding, it's a 5 or 0, I don't remember. But yeah, I think we're gonna do the
Every
same
program
thing.
should always have checks and balances to say, hey, is this working well? If so, we should do more. If it's not working well, do we get rid of it or do we
Yep.
change the program parameters? And like Counselor Kassoff was mentioning, it's very important to have those internal controls. The city of Ferguson does not have a great track record with managing grants that they give out. From FNIP, there was dozens upon dozens of, custom home improvement loans that were given out that staff was supposed to collect and never did. And they just washed their hands of it at some point. There's still a house on Roberta that was property restoration program over 4 years ago. They haven't issued a building permit or put a nail in a wall. And the city should have, per the redevelopment agreement, taken possession of that back with that unrecorded deed of trust or quitclaim deed. They never did. It's just, I think they quit paying the taxes too, which is really against the spirit of the program. The program is supposed to be, get the property back on the tax rolls, make sure it's fixed in a timely fashion, or take it back. And I think it's gonna go up for auction here this year again, so it's at least 3 years behind.
You said it's on Bermuda?
On Roberta.
Councilman Williams?
So it's gonna be some fraud involved, but you have to think that most people are good. And I think these programs are gonna be good for the community. However, I think the $30,000 disaster loan, I think maybe that needs to be scrapped and that those funds go into the education or the business. And here's my reasoning for that. Most sensible business owners are gonna have insurance. You have other programs like FEMA, then you have the SBA has a disaster loan. Like, when COVID hit, a lot of businesses got disaster loans. So I think that one can have some more elements of fraud than the other ones. But I think the money could be better spent as far as definitely education and maybe starting a business. So I understand the spirit of that one, but I think that those funds should be allocated to some of the other programs.
Okay, yep. Yep, we can bring that up.
We're not gonna cut it out just yet. Okay, it haven't got off the ground floor. So,
Well, that's why we have these conversations. So
Okay.
if we have terrible ideas, we can.
okay, I have one.
Yes.
The historical designation for
Mhm.
Northland Hills. I hope you would put that on there as number 5. We have had several neighborhoods in Ferguson who has successfully reached that historical designation. And this Northland Hills was next. For some odd reason, COVID hit and this, that, and other, but I would like for that to be on the EDS because they have contacted the state of Missouri, and the state of Missouri is just waiting to hear back from them to come out and start the historical designation. And they made it because those houses were built in 1954 by a famous builder, Sherman, and they're well-built 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom homes. And so they deserve that opportunity to be on the historical registration.
Yeah, okay. I think that we do have an amount budgeted, but it's a general amount, so I will double check that though.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking time out of your schedule, coming here, presenting the programs. I hope you have taken the notes on a suggestion from the council
Oh, yeah.
and give us some feedback. But my number one concern is when people tend to supposed to pay money back and they don't, and the lender get tired, they washes their hands. So we need to, like Councilman Palmer say, we need to come up with some system other than putting burdens on the finance department to collect this money. Because it needs to be collected.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I got.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. That ends our special presentation. We don't have any public hearings tonight, so we move to our consent agenda. We have city council meetings, regular meeting minutes for April the 22nd and special meeting minutes for May the 5th. I am requesting a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second, Aquita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the minutes. We don't have any requests for boards and commission meetings tonight. No appointments, so we move to the liquor request. City Clerk Pittman. You have a request.
I do. I have an applicant here, for 42 South Florissant Road, who has made application for liquor, Easter Love for Nay's Twisted Treats.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Consent agenda should not be involving presentations and discussions. So if we could, I'm happy to take this up, but it shouldn't be on the consent agenda.
Liquor license has always been on consent agenda.
A consent agenda does not allow for discussion.
City Clerk, Attorney.
If you would like to move it to somewhere, where would you rather?
I'm happy to take it up now as new business. I'm just saying that if we want to have a discussion here, it can't be on the consent agenda. It was a point of order. That's all I'm making.
Well, would you put a motion on the floor to move, since you want it under new business? Amend the agenda, bring up new business down just to house this person, so we won't prolong her
Yeah,
time.
And
perfectly.
it's only necessary to do one, because like I said, I sent you guys a message the other one.
What other one is postponed?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I move to move the liquor license to new business and to take it up immediately out of order.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
I,
Okay, you have the floor, madam.
My name is Easter Love. I went in business with, Ella's Kitchen. Ella Kitchen wants to pull out. She wants to become just the landlord of the business. I would like to take over. I have been the face of her business and I think that I can run it. It's gonna continue to be a restaurant. Would not be anything different, but I would like to keep the liquor license and run the business as it has been running. I'm not trying to be a nuisance to the community. I would like to be access to the community. I would like to do fundraisers and give back to the community, but I'm not trying to be a nuisance to the community. So I'm asking, can I keep the liquor license? Can I get the liquor license over to Nays Twisted Tree?
Councilman Cassoff, you got any questions?
well, I mean, just as a matter of clarification, it's a new liquor license.
Correct.
You
Yes, sir.
can't transfer a liquor
No, sir.
license, so, I don't have a packet. I assume that the clerk has gone over the criteria and that you meet them, but I haven't seen any of that documentation at this point.
I have submitted it.
Okay. Are you, I believe when we granted the liquor license to Ella's Kitchen, what was the closing time? It was 9 or 10 o'clock. It wasn't very late.
Yeah, it's still the same. It's still gonna be the same.
So you are planning to close at,
She have my application. I put on there still 9 and 10
okay,
o'clock.
again, we don't have the
Yes, sir.
application, so I'm
Yes,
sorry
sir.
if I'm asking things you've
No,
already
no, it's
provided,
okay.
but this is not gonna be open till midnight,
No,
1 o'clock
sir.
in the morning,
No.
nothing like that.
No, sir.
Okay, okay. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna say this honestly, when you moved into Ella's Kitchen, the way Ella's Kitchen did it, I was skeptical, cause to me, they came in here and said, we're gonna do a family restaurant, we just want people to get cocktails with their dinner, and then all of a sudden it's Nays Twisted Treats and people in the club. And it was kind of sketchy, but I wanna say, I haven't heard of a single problem since you've opened. And for somebody to be running a fairly popular establishment and serving alcohol, and there ain't been police cars, there ain't been no shootings, there ain't been no, I'm impressed. I don't like how you got in there, but I'm impressed with how you running things. And so I do like that. The only thing that I wish is if you could get people to quit parking on Spot Drive. Because everybody who come to Aldi is parking next to, is driving past there. And that's a narrow street.
That's not me. I'm asking them to move. They get mad at me. Ask your police officer. I've
It's
asked them to
okay.
move.
It's a lot of times I go to Aldi 7 days a week and there's almost always
And
somebody
that's
parked
not
there.
me.
Maybe
I
we
promise
could
you,
put up some
because
more.
I'm scared if somebody blocked the door in, that
Right.
they're probably blocking me and to come in and rob me. So I don't like people parking there at all. I asked them to move.
Right,
So
right.
that's not me. I don't know where
Maybe
they parking.
put up a
They
sign.
go to, they have where you can pick up your package over next door. They park their car there and they walk over there and I asked them to move, but I'm not gonna go back and forth and have a big confrontation with them.
Right.
But they go next door to pick up their package. They have a drop-off service over at Sweet Eats.
Oh, I know.
Yes, so that's what they're doing. They're not.
They
coming
need to
my
stay,
place.
they need to stay off of Spot Drive because
Correct.
it's not really wide enough.
That's a street, that's not a parking.
Right, and it's not wide, the area by the building is not wide enough for a vehicle to safely park there without people having to go out into the other lane, and then
Correct.
people come around that corner blind, it's gonna cause an accident sooner or
I
later.
don't know if we should put a sign up, it's right there on the ground. I don't understand, but I have
Yeah,
that problem.
but
as
other
well.
than that, yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Councilman Palmer?
The last applicant that you were in business with, they had to go through a process because our municipal code requires that a church or a school that's within 300 feet has to have a hearing to make sure it's not gonna be detrimental to their educational or religious activities.
My question is for the city attorney. Liquor licenses are for applicants, not businesses. So would that spur this to need to happen again? A public hearing with the church?
Well, I tried to get in touch with the church. There's nobody being occupied in the church.
Take a closer look. My opinion would be, just shooting from that, is that if this is an application for a new license, then yes, it would have to go through that process. If this is a transfer pursuant to 4-34, then it is only the applicant that must satisfy all the other provisions of the ordinance, in which case they may not need to go through the process.
This is a new application.
In which case I would say that means.
Now, with the relevance of a building that its highest and best use is a church, either closed or open, does that have bearing on the requirement of that hearing? If the church is not, if it's not currently holding service, is it at that point considered to not be a church anymore?
In my reading of the code, I think explicit text requiring that regular services be conducted, it just says church. But that kind of goes into the realm of the political question of what's considered.
This would be a question for maybe community development. When a church buys a church, that church has changed hands a few times. Does that spur a commercial occupancy inspection or no?
Occupancy should always be done when there's a change in use, a change in tenant, or a change in ownership.
So is there currently a commercial occupancy permit on file for that religious institution? And
I can look,
okay,
I can look tomorrow morning, and then along with the other information that I'm supposed to get to you, I'll just give that.
I'm just curious if it is indeed a closed church, does that, I wasn't sure if that still requires you to have the hearing or not. I mean, the likelihood of it not becoming a church again is probably pretty low. I mean, churches don't generally change uses often, but I don't know what the legal ramifications are of that.
To be honest, I'm not sure either. I don't think code defines what a church is, and there would be some concern in trying to define what a church is from a First Amendment standpoint. But I'm saying I really don't know.
Okay, thank you.
City manager.
Yeah.
Yes, I know you had your hand up.
Mayor and council, I know the fire department's been trying to get a hold of the owners of that church. We are not even successful in getting emergency contact or anything, so we do not believe that it is actually open as a church right now.
Okay.
It's not.
Right. Who had their hand up?
I did.
Okay,
They answered all the questions.
okay. Councilman Franklin.
So I would just add that the church is vacant. As you said, you guys have tried to reach out to no avail. And if a building is not occupied, it's a church building, but it's not a church. And so since our code doesn't, I guess, clearly define church, I would say that it's an unoccupied dwelling. And it would just be a commercial building at this point in time, because it would be nearly impossible to get in contact with those individuals. So I would treat it as just a commercial dwelling. And because our code isn't specific, we can define it how we want to define it. But right now it's vacant. And then I'll just add, just from my own, I guess, experience in the community, Nay's Twisted Treats is a decent restaurant. As you said, there's been no complaints, no issues. And I believe your neighbor on Ferguson Road, BKM, is an advocate as well. So there's a good working relationship between neighbors along that corridor.
Councilman Casal.
I just want to quickly confirm what the city attorney said. If the applicant meets the requirements of 4-34 to do a transfer rather than the issuance of a new license, and that has some stipulations on both the seller of the business and the person acquiring the business, then only the personal requirements of section 4-27 and 4-51 apply. Section 4-30 is the section which requires approval of the church. And if it is a transfer, then the church is not required to approve of it. But that assumes that you meet the requirements of 4-34, which you might want to review. And that would change your application process.
Yes, sir.
City clerk.
so full disclosure, when there is a new applicant, no, the complete application is not done. There are parts of the application that are pending, consideration by the city council. But I do actually have the application here, and on the application, it does list, four liquor license, Monday through Sunday. Sunday hours from 3 to 8 p.m. and Monday through Saturday, 11 to 10 p.m.
Okay. So what Councilman Cassoff just said, he basically just gave you an option. So the question becomes, our application is a new application?
Yes. Like,
Take the hint.
I understand. I understood what he was saying. Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Franklin.
So, you know, I hear from this council that we're about business in our community. And, you know, it's a new application. I don't see any reason why we would vote against it if we're about business. The church is vacant. So rather than, you know, the applicant has done her due diligence with this new process. She's going through plan review, I believe, with St. Louis County. So are we saying that we want her to fill out another application to transfer the license as opposed to a new license?
No.
No, not
Okay, so
really.
I'm saying that the ordinance provides two means by which she can secure a liquor license here. One of which requires approval of the church, the occupancy of which is in question and not determined at the moment. The other one does not require approval of the church. If she does a 4-34 transfer, then the church is irrelevant. I am presenting her with an option,
the
sir.
church doesn't exist.
Well, you know what? Somebody called me a few weeks ago about some derelict vehicles on the church lot, and I asked that person who lived right in the area of that church, and he said the church does still exist. I don't have any personal knowledge of this church at all, but 4-34 transfer completely bypasses that issue. And other than the church, the 4-27 and 4-51 requirements would apply to a new license or a transfer. The only thing that comes into play with the transfer is that the existing business has to be an orderly place of business and not the subject of any nuisances, and that their license can't be under suspension or revocation. And as far as I know, that is the case. So assuming that the remainder of her application is suitable to be passed, then utilizing a 4-34 transfer would simply serve to eliminate the question of whether it's an active church. We can't just, well, I haven't seen anybody go in there on Sunday, so we're gonna ignore that. But with 4-34, the church is irrelevant if she chooses to go that route.
Councilman Franklin.
Well, I'm gonna take the advice of our city manager. You know, they've tried to reach out to this church that some believe is still active to no avail.
And when I called the number, the people said that the man had used their church before, but he does not know where they at. So I don't know how to get in touch with him as well.
Do it whichever way you guys want to do it.
Councilman Williams.
All right, 4-30 and all that. Let's just use some common sense. Why do we want her to do the transfer and go through more paperwork? It came out of your own mouth that it's a good establishment. And if we're voting tonight, let's just send her on her way and let her keep earning money and serving the community. Let's not do red tape. And I understand what you're doing the technicality, but that brings red tape. And then that's why a lot of businesses don't want to come here, because we have too much red tape and regulations. So I understand that, you know, she can do the transfer and she doesn't have to worry about the church, but it's not a church, it's just a building.
Okay. One more and then we'll move on. Councilman Franklin,
Well, I was ready to motion to approve.
you got the floor.
All right, cool.
You have the floor.
I'd like to, a motion to approve the new liquor license.
Second, Naquita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Liquor license passed. Thank you. The second item that we had on the agenda, Halls Ferry operation, they asked for a postponement to a later time. Okay, we don't have any proclamation at this time. We move to the resolution. Resolution number 2025-12. Without objection, were introduced by council members Cassoff, Noor, Franklin, Covington, and Ed Mayor Jones. Attorney Ryan, could you please read the resolution?
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution selecting a contractor for stop, search, and arrest training, awarding the contract to said contractor, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
City Manager Hampton.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I do have Lisa Stevens here tonight, but if I need to bring her up, but this is, for a consent decree. These are just bringing in experts in those areas. So if you need to talk to Lisa, I can bring her up, but otherwise that's what the program's about.
Would you bring up for a minute?
I sure can. Ms. Stevens?
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Community members. This training is, as we stated, resolution 2512 is a resolution for selecting a contractor to present stop, search, and arrest training for the police officers of the Ferguson Police Department. It is a part of a requirement of the consent decree, and this training would take care of a number of things. It will provide guidance to our officers on stopping and searching people for discretionary and nonviolent offenses, including providing guidance about procedural justice alternatives to conducting investigatory stops and searches, and the impact on civilians on conducting apparently arbitrary stops and searches. And this training would be provided by Matthew T. Brown, who is the subject matter expert. This training is scheduled to be rolled out July 2025. And so we would like to have this approved so that we can move forward with the training.
Any question for our trainer, Councilwoman Noah?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Lisa, will this training, is this just a one-time training? I mean, I'm sure it's a process. However, will this training happen again next year?
This is the initial training that is required under paragraph 308 under the consent decree. So it's the initial training that the officers will receive. However, there will be annual requirement that will come, but there is no stipulation that it has to be this training. We could do online training, or we could go with another subject matter expert.
Thank you.
Any other question for Miss Lisa? Thank you. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm asking for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Second, Naquita Noah.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution number 2025-12 passes. Thank you. We move to bills requiring the first reading. We have bill number 7306. Before I go any further with bill number 7306, this bill is in the response to all of the media coverage that we had over this person who had a warrant and this one didn't have a warrant and da, 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 da. This bill covers that, so we don't have to go through that period of time anymore. So I am introducing this bill, and at this time, City Attorney Ryan, would you please read the bill by the title only?
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance amending certain sections within Article 5, Section 2-382 relating to the eligibility for commission and board service in the city of Ferguson.
City Manager?
Yeah, I think you said it.
Okay. We move to bill number 7307. Without objection, we're introduced by council members Cassoff and Palmer. Attorney Ryan, could you please read the bill by title only?
An ordinance amending certain sections within Article 4, Section 30-66 relating to use regulations of parks.
City Manager?
Yeah, Mayor, at this time, I would refer to Nick, Mr. Cassoff, rather, as the person that was introduced.
Councilman Cassoff?
This bill makes it unlawful by ordinance to use marijuana in city parks. At the moment, we have an ordinance prohibiting consumption of alcohol. But the police department has said that they can't stop people from hanging around smoking weed in the park without an ordinance. So that's what this ordinance does.
Thank you. Bill number 7308. Without objections, we're introduced by Councilmember Cassoff. City Attorney Ryan, could you read the bill by title only?
An ordinance amending certain sections within Article 5, Section 44-291 relating to parking for disabled individuals.
City Manager?
Yes, there again, I will refer to Mr. Cassoff as he's the one that, about this ordinance.
A resident had requested a reserved handicapped spot in front of their home, or not reserved, but a handicapped spot. And state law provides us with the authority to do this, but we have to have an enacting ordinance in Ferguson in order to have it. So that is what this would do.
Thank you. Bill number 7309. Without objection, we introduced by Councilwoman Covington, and I think she has something to add. Are you?
No, I have a motion after
Okay.
he reads it.
Okay. City Attorney Ryan, could you please read the bill by the title only?
An ordinance amending a special use permit to Letitia Mann for the purpose of operating an adult care facility at 607 South Florissant to include 607 and 609 South Florissant, subject to the conditions, restrictions, and requirements set forth herein.
I have a motion, Madam Mayor.
Let's hear your motion.
Pursuant to section 23.1 of our zoning code, I move that Bill 7309 be referred to the Planning Commission for their consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We move to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business tonight? I have one item, that is the consent decree. Just want to say that on last Thursday, our PIO, Patricia Washington, did a great job on introducing a consent decree, but I want to share with people once again, the consent decree is not governed by the executive order that the president put out. Judge Perry has made it clear that she is the judge, the federal judge over the consent decree. And what she determines is how Ferguson is going to work with the consent decree. We are seeking the fact that we want to work diligently to get out of this consent decree. That's what I have for unfinished business. Do we have any other unfinished business? We move to new business. Do we have any new business? Councilman Palmer.
Madam Mayor, I had a discussion with former Councilwoman Lipka, and she has expressed interest in the vacant Ward 1 seat for EDST. And I'm requesting that you give her a call and talk to her. It's a mayoral appointment with council approval. So she has expressed interest in continuing to serve in that capacity.
I will talk with her.
Thank you.
Okay. I have new business. The boards and commission has space for a charter commission. I would like for each council member to select one person from your ward to be put on the charter commission. We will work together to give them some items that we would like for them to look at on the charter commission. When you go to the boards and commission, you will see the attorney and the city clerk are automatically on the charter commission. So hopefully next meeting, you will come back with the person that you're selecting to be on the charter commission. Yes,
I do have a question. for clarity.
yes, ma'am.
Are they gonna go through the usual application process?
They have to go through the boards and commission process. Okay. Any other new business? One more. Today's city clerk Pittman sent out an email about FNIP and their new bylaws. Did anyone have an opportunity to read them?
Yeah. I did.
Okay, I'll do it this way. Please read their new bylaws, so when we come back to the next meeting, something can be said or expressed about them. Everyone has not read them. I read them and you have. Okay, so we'll have that
Right.
on for our agenda for the next meeting. Okay. Miscellaneous, I'm gonna start with our newest councilwoman, Covington. Last time we did this, but tonight you get a
I get to
chance.
say something?
Yeah,
It's big enough. I don't need that mic.
Get closer to it.
All right. Thank you for all the public comments. Thank you for making my first meeting kind of long. That's about it. Have a good week.
thank you, Councilwoman Covington. The next person will be Councilman Palmer.
I appreciate the opportunity to serve another term on city council, and have a good evening, everybody.
Councilman Franklin.
Good evening. Thanks for those of you that are still in the audience tonight. We ran a little long, and those that may still be listening over Zoom, I appreciate your dedication. I'd like to say thank you to Ward 2 residents for putting me in this chair, and also for the support I had throughout the city in this last election. And I just kind of wanted to put it out into the atmosphere. I wanted to speak about boards and commissions. And right now we have about roughly 20 different boards and commissions here at the city of Ferguson, and we have about 61 or 60 plus vacancies on those boards and commissions. I think 2 are actually, no one's on the board. And so we've got an issue with volunteers and, getting people involved and active in our community. And I think one of the barriers to people getting involved and staying involved is the requirement that you have current personal property and real estate taxes. I think that really disqualifies or hinders our poorest residents in this community. And if Ferguson is going to move forward, as we all like to say, we have to be inclusive. So not just those of us that can afford to pay our taxes on time or even early, we need to consider those residents who maybe just because of their financial circumstance, they may not be able to pay on time or in full. And even to the point where we have individuals who have been kicked off of boards and commissions because they're late paying. And I think we need to just, as a community, decide if that's a requirement we want to repeal, if that's something we think is important here in our community. You look across our region from University City, Clayton, Florissant, et cetera, a lot of municipalities don't require, paid or current personal property or real estate taxes. So just something I want the community as a whole to think about if that's what you are in favor of. So for you that are still here tonight and those on Zoom, let's have a conversation about it. Reach out to me directly. Let me know if that's something you want me to sponsor, because I am a proponent of it. But at the same time, this seat belongs to the people and I'm here to do your work. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Williams.
Currently, we do not have a liaison with the school district. I think this needs to change, especially how they're in a deficit now. Most municipalities or districts, the city government and the school districts have some type of relationship.
We do.
We need a liaison, not that I'm aware of. Because when I had a lot of issues with my son, it was nobody I really could talk to. And I came here to the city government. I talked to Dave Musgrave. He was like, yeah, we don't really have a relationship. Everywhere I've gone, parks and recs are very important and we have a strong relationship with the school district. He said that does not exist here. So I think that needs to change. As far as jobs for our young people, I know parks and recs have jobs for teenagers cleaning up the parks. That's the only one I know about, but I do think that's important to give these young people some opportunities and put a little cash in their pocket so they're not out doing mischievous things. And also the consent decree, I don't know how much I can talk about that, but 2 months ago, I was like, why don't we just tell them to kick rocks? Those are literally the words out of my mouth. Ferguson has made changes and improvements, but now it's just a penalty. And this is tax money that's going to the government. I think that the median income here is 42K. It might be lower than that. So it's a travesty that we're spending all that money and we have made things correct. If we're pardoning January 6th rioters, why can't they just say, okay, Ferguson, you've done a good job, drop it. It is disheartening because we have a lot of roads that are not repaired because we're spending so much money, tax money, on the consent decree. And I'm still an advocate of that, to just tell them to kick rocks. And my last, it's a question and comment. So you guys want $50,000 to make this a historical neighborhood. I'm not understanding the significance of that. How will that benefit Ferguson as a whole? So if your neighborhood does become a historical site, do you get money for that? Or I'm just not understanding how that's going to benefit Ferguson as a whole. I'd rather put that money in a scholarship fund and send some kids to college, or, first time home buyers or something like that. So if you can clarify how that would benefit the whole, I would greatly appreciate it, because as it stands, I don't understand it. Thank you.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Councilwoman Noor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Before I go into my miscellaneous, Chief, I have a question for you and a comment. The residents in Southeast who live on Ellison and Canfield are asking if a speed hump will be placed on Ellison and if a speed hump will be placed on Canfield between Ellison and West Florissant. You don't have to answer now. It's just a question that they're, because the street has been repaved and it really looks nice over there with the street done. And the second is, do we have an opening day for Performance Food Group yet? No, nothing yet? Okay. Just the residents over in Southwest, they're just wondering.
That mainly comes through Berkeley, because Berkeley
would go through
owns
Berkeley.
more of the property than Ferguson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
shared, but they
Well-
got a bigger portion. Okay.
Well, if you hear about it, So there will be no Ward 3 North Hills meeting this Saturday, May 17th at 10 a.m. However, I am putting a call out to the community for neighborhood leaders so we can rebuild our neighborhood associations. We can't do it without you all. The Ferguson soccer mini pitch ribbon cutting and opening day at the farmers market were well attended. Even in the rain, Ferguson still shined and it was still a good time. Thank you to all of the staff and the department collaborations working together to ensure that Ferguson is well represented during Ferguson events. A Red Circle presented the creative spot on Saturday, May 3rd, and there was a soft opening that Friday. And we just want to welcome the Creative Spot, which is located at 414 South Florissant. And I am really looking forward to celebrating the Ferguson Fire Department's 120th anniversary this Saturday and participating in the Ferguson Twilight Run Walk. I would like to welcome the new FPD officers, and it is National Police Week. So happy National Police Week, FPD. And thank you all. Be safe and well.
Thank you, Councilwoman Noor. Councilman Cassoff.
Yeah, a couple of quick things. I assume speed bumps are coming on Thurman as well. It's been paved for a while and they don't have speed bumps. And hopefully we can put the speed bump on the east end of Thurman down the hill from the disabled lady with the van. Cause she said her van scrapes on it. So if we could put that bump further down the hill, then she's right near the top of the hill. So hopefully we can plan that out better. The other thing I want to say is I put in a bill to allow the owner of the adult daycare on South Florissant to simply expand her business into an adjacent area of the same building. Same entrance, same business name. She's just going from 607 over to 609. And at the advice of the city attorney, I'm referring it to planning and zoning. Even though I was prepared to argue that it wasn't a material change and that it wasn't required, but the city attorney said, look, you gotta follow the ordinance or the next person coming down the road that you deny is gonna say you were arbitrary and capricious. So let's go through the process. And we're doing that. And Miss Mann will come to another hearing and we all know that it's gonna be approved. And then she's gonna have to come back here and we're gonna have to vote on it. So tonight, when we were talking about the liquor license at Nay's Twisted Treats, which I don't have a problem with the liquor license, and I made that very clear when I spoke with her. However, there is the issue of a church. If it is a transfer under our ordinance, the church issue doesn't come into play. But everybody says, so some of my colleagues said, oh, it's a vacant church. We don't need to worry about that. Based on, I guess, the fact that they didn't answer the phone or return a phone call. So I'm looking on Facebook. And that church live streamed a church service from that building on May the 4th. So y'all just approved a new liquor license without considering the input of the church as our ordinance requires. The next bar that requests a liquor license within 300 feet of a church, I hope they don't remember this, because if we deny them because of that, or even make them go through the process, we're being arbitrary and capricious. I know I put a lot of legislation through this council, and I really try hard to dot every I and cross every T. I don't always succeed, and every once in a while, I put a bill out there that people don't like. I understand that. In this situation, we should have followed the process in our ordinance. And like I said, I hope that we don't have another liquor license applicant that comes in here and says, well, y'all don't follow the requirements of your ordinance anyway. Give me my liquor license. That's all.
Clerk Pittman.
Just a reminder, that the city is gearing up for Ferguson Juneteenth. The event will take place Saturday, June 14th at Forestwood Park this year from 4 to 9 p.m.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Councilman Williams.
Here's the thing I want everybody to understand. Laws are man-made, so they're imperfect. 30 years ago or so, women could not vote. I want you guys to remember, that was a law that women could not vote. It was also that if you were Black, you had to drink out of a certain water fountain. That was the law. So laws are man-made and they're imperfect. And sometimes we have to use our best judgment and move forward. I think granting her a liquor license was the correct thing to do. That establishment doesn't have any issues. It's bringing tax dollars to Ferguson. In my opinion, that church is vacant. So I just think sometimes we have to use common sense and just realize that laws or rules are man-made. And just remember, it's one higher being, God. We're all imperfect. And so a lot of the rules or ordinances that we create are imperfect. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind and let's move forward. Thank you.
City Manager,
I have nothing to say.
Attorney, did I call you? Okay, yes.
But I just want to clarify that, you all, renting the license tonight does not, waive, I guess, the rest of the requirements, right? So the license is still not issued until all of the requirements are met. I want to make sure of this.
Yeah, I do understand that, and I just put a call into the pastor, so hopefully he can clear it up.
Okay, we go through the license, approval or consideration earlier than we do for renewals, just so that way, the business owner can understand if they are going to be granted a liquor license, so they'll know how to proceed. Because if that's gonna be the basis of their business and they're told no, then they can halt, all construction and doing anything further and then go somewhere else. But she is still required to go through, and complete all of the requirements.
Okay, okay. Two things. Community Action Agency of St. Louis County was here in Ferguson today. They had a program where they help low-income people with their utilities. They will be here every Tuesday at the Ferguson Library from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And on an average, talking to Scott today, Castle usually see about 50 people every Tuesday over at the Ferguson Library. So that is a great spot for people to come from all over the county to get assistance. In addition to that, I got another call today from a nonprofit. I get a lot of calls. Last call I received, they had 40 baseball tickets, but I couldn't give them away. I just let them turn around and gave them to somebody else. They called me again. What's that football team in Kansas? Oh, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going, I'm not a football person. They're going to do a one-day camp for any kid who's interested in football. The nonprofit will supply the transportation, but they need 40 kids. So if you know of any child would like to go up to Kansas City for a day and work out with the Kansas City Chiefs, please call Adrian Shropshire. He's with Ferguson Youth Initiative. And so if we could get people to go, I'm asking you, I'm begging you to take it over. So if that can happen, they'll have transportation. They just told me kids who want to play football. So they will have a flyer to me tomorrow, and I'll give it to the city clerk and she can put it out. So I'm requesting a motion in a second to adjourn. the
So
meeting.
moved.
Second, Aquita Noah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We are finished. I will.